The first time a Jato warship entered human space, it wasn't fear that filled the room. It was silence. General Aiden Cross stood in the war chamber of the Arcadia Spire, staring at the massive holographic projection of the alien cruiser, sleek, dark, organic. It drifted just beyond Saturn's orbit, shielded and unresponsive. "They're not broadcasting," said Commander Ray Hallstrom, voice sharp, eyes narrowed. "No beacon. No diplomatic hail. Just watching." Cross didn't blink. "They're not here to talk." Behind them, analysts fed data into the command array. Every camera on Earth's outer network locked on the intruder. The room was packed, but only Cross moved with certainty. He had felt this before. 40 years ago. On another front. With another name. "They don't think we're awake yet," he said quietly. Ray looked at him. "What do you mean?" "They think humanity's sleeping. Unaware of what we used to be." 2 days earlier, the Jatel had erased a mining colony on Enceladus. No warning. No survivors. Just radiation signatures and melted stone. No one in the council wanted to escalate. Humanity had known peace for almost a century. Since the collapse wars ended, Earth's focus had shifted to terraforming and cultural revival. War was a relic. Soldiers like Aiden Cross? Fossils. Until now. "I want eyes inside that ship," Cross said. Ray raised an eyebrow. "You're serious." "More than serious. I'm sending in him." Deck 17, Helix Operations. A room without windows, buried under 10 levels of reinforced alloy and memory seals. He sat alone at the far end, long hair tied back, knuckles scarred. The lights buzzed as if the room itself knew what it held. The door opened. Cross entered slowly. "You look older," said the man, not looking up. "You look dangerous," Cross replied. "I was sleeping." Cross stepped closer. "We need you awake." The man's name was Dax Renn. Biogenically augmented. Ex-Special Tier. Sealed by treaty after the Karsus campaign. A weapon even Earth was afraid to keep above ground. Dax finally met his eyes. "Jatil?" Cross nodded. Dax cracked his neck. "Time to stretch, then." The plan was simple. Insert Dax via stealth pod, disable external sensor arrays, extract command data. What wasn't simple was the risk. No human had ever boarded a Chateau vessel and lived. As the pod launched, Ray stood beside Cross on the deck of the Helix bridge. "You're not telling me everything," she said. Cross nodded. "No. What are they?" He didn't answer right away. "They're not invaders," he said. "They're archaeologists. They've been watching us for centuries." Ray frowned. "Studying us?" "Not us." He turned to face her. "What we used to be." Dax moved through the ship like smoke through glass. His suit adjusted silently to the humidity, the gravity shift, the biosynthetic walls. The interior pulsed, alive, warm, humming with thought. Jatil design wasn't mechanical. It was grown. His visor flickered. "Command Core, 43 meters north." He found it easily. No resistance. No guards. That was wrong. He stepped into the core, an orb of light, suspended above a liquid lattice. And there, standing in silence, was a Jatil. It looked like a sculpture of obsidian and silver. No mouth. No eyes. Just presence. "You are the awakened," it said. Dax didn't flinch. "You're not surprised. We were waiting." "For what?" "For the spark." Back on Arcadia Spire, alarms erupted. "Sir, Jatil's ship powering internal grid." Cross's jaw tightened. "Dax report." Static. Then a voice, not Dax's. "General Cross. He has passed the threshold." Ray stared at the screen. "Is that them?" "Yes," Cross said. "And that means it's starting." Inside the Jatil ship, Dax stood still. "You knew I'd come." The Jatil stepped closer. "We seeded the signal." "What do you want?" "To remember. What your kind made us forget." He raised his weapon. Try anything and you die. You don't remember what you are, the alien said. But your bones do. Your blood does. You were never meant for peace. The lights pulsed. You were made for dominion. Dax fired. The shot passed through the Jota like smoke. You cannot kill an echo, it said. Then everything flashed. The Arcadia spire flickered. Power surged. Command terminals shorted. The sky above Earth dimmed, then brightened, momentarily glowing with symbols no one recognized. Ray looked at Cross. What is that? He stepped forward, eyes locked on the sky. An invitation. To what? He swallowed hard. To remember. The first scream didn't come from Dax. It came from the ship. A shrill, inhuman wail echoed through the Jota corridors as the core recognized what had awakened inside him. Lights dimmed, then pulsed crimson. The walls twisted, almost recoiling. Dax fell to one knee, clutching his chest. The pressure behind his eyes throbbed. Memories, not his, poured in like water breaking through a dam. Battles he'd never fought. Weapons he'd never held. Blood he didn't spill. Except it was his. Or rather, it had been. Status report! Ray barked, clutching the console rail as the Arcadia spire groaned under an unseen force. The entire space station trembled, not from impact, but resonance. Ma'am, the Jota ship, it's not attacking. It's responding to something on Earth, an officer said, his voice tight. Define responding. Planetary memory systems. Deep archives, sealed neurovaults, ancient war caches, they're lighting up. Like someone just flipped a forgotten switch. Ray's gaze shifted to the central screen. An old map flickered to life on its own. Soul War Theater designation number 001. The Collapse War's epicenter. Where's Cross? Gone to the vault. Cross moved through the old sublevel alone. The lights here didn't flicker. They pulsed, slow and deliberate, like breathing. He reached the door. Neural compression zone, restricted, flashed across the surface. He pressed his palm to the panel. Voice authentication, the AI intoned. Aiden Cross. Former rank, executor. A pause. Access granted. The door slid open with a sigh. Inside were slabs of black stone, stacked like tombs. Each one etched with names. Some he remembered. Most he tried to forget. He walked to the center platform. Atop it, a single cube sat. Unassuming. Cold. He picked it up. The cube pulsed in his palm. You kept them buried. A voice echoed in his mind. Not machine. Not memory. Something older. We weren't ready, he whispered. No, it answered. You were afraid. Dax stood in the Jota command core, breathing heavily. Sweat dripped down his spine despite the cold. The alien hadn't moved. You triggered it, Dax said, voice low. No, the Jota replied. We unlocked it. What is it? Your inheritance. You are not evolved. You are sealed. The words hit like a blade. We watched your kind tear galaxies in half. You made weapons from stars. Then, you chose silence. You forgot yourselves. Dax shook his head. That wasn't me. Not yet. On Earth, seismic alarms echoed across the continents. Beneath old cities, ancient vaults opened. Weapons walked out, not machines, but things suspended in stasis. Shapes with no name. Designs built by minds that no longer existed. Long ago, someone had locked them away. And now they remembered what they were built for. Ray ran into the lower control ring, data feeds exploding across every screen. Commander, her aide called. New contacts rising from the Pacific Trench. Signature matches Soul-class Titans. We thought they were myths. They're not, Ray said grimly. They're ours. The aide froze. You mean, we made them? Yes, she said. And now they've woken up. In orbit, the Jota ship began to pulse like a living thing. No weapons charged. No threats issued. It watched. Dax turned to the core. If we're so dangerous, why wake us? The Jottil tilted its head. Because another force is coming. One we cannot stop. But you once did. What force? The room darkened. A star map unfolded in the air, entire sectors, entire civilizations, snuffed out like sparks. We call it the Reaping Spiral. You called it the Pale Engine. Dax's blood ran cold. The name pulled at something deep in his mind. A ghost. A scream. You want us to fight it? No, the alien replied. We want to watch if you can. In the war chamber, Cross returned. He carried the cube in both hands. His face was pale, his voice steady. Pull every fleet back. Scramble everything with propulsion. Ray turned. What are you planning? I'm not, he said. I'm remembering. He placed the cube in the command core. Every screen went black. Then a symbol emerged, an ancient sigil once forbidden. A jagged spiral wrapped in a broken ring. A voice spoke. But it wasn't Earth's voice. It was human, but older. Fiercer. Warform Alpha Protocol. Reactivated. Across the solar system, dormant weapons lit up. Moon stations rumbled. Martian vaults split open. Near Neptune, a station cloaked for centuries blinked online. Earth hadn't just buried its past. It had buried its gods. In the Jottil ship, Dax collapsed to one knee again. The power rushing through him was no longer dormant. You feel it now, the Jottil said softly. The truth. He looked up, eyes glowing faintly gold. I was made for this. The alien nodded. You all were. Above Earth, the sky turned. The stars shifted. Something vast crossed the edge of the system. A voice crackled across every radio band, not in words but in dread. Ray turned to Cross. What do we do? He smiled, a smile that hadn't touched his face in 40 years. We remind the galaxy, he said. What happens when humans wake up? The pale engine arrived without light. It didn't break space, it consumed the concept. Sensors failed to register shape or propulsion. What emerged beyond the heliopause was an absence of reality, a void where nothing should have existed. Then came the pressure, a silent frequency that didn't travel through air or vacuum but through thought. It reached Earth within seconds. And humanity remembered everything. Dax stood at the heart of the Jottil ship, shaking. His pulse pounded like war drums inside his skull. The alien vessel groaned around him, every wall twitching as if resisting collapse. The Jottil emissary trembled too. For the first time, it spoke with something close to fear. It has tasted your history. What does that mean? Dax asked. It's not here to fight. It's here to erase what you were. The words dug deep. Dax's voice dropped low. Then it chose the wrong planet. Beneath the Andes Mountains, an ancient vault opened fully. The Aegis Helix, humanity's last forbidden artifact, rose into Earth's sky like a black monolith. Forgotten even by those who created it, it carried no weapons. It was the weapon. A singularity engine wrapped in sentient alloy, hard-coated with one purpose: denial. Not of territory. Of extinction. Ray stood at the Arcadia Spire command deck, watching it ascend. We can't even aim that thing, she muttered. You don't aim it, Cross replied. You unleash it. The pale engine began to speak. Not in sound, but through every living mind. Not words. Refusals. Whole sectors of brain function began to shut down. People collapsed mid-step. Drones fell from the sky. Even machines buckled under the weight of its presence. But not Dax. He stood taller. The Jottil watched him carefully. Why are you still standing? Dax's voice was low, controlled. Because it already tried to break me once. He closed his eyes. And opened something else. In an instant, Dax's vision burned white. He wasn't in the ship anymore. He was standing in a battlefield that no longer existed. Black soil, red sky, thousands of alien corpses at his feet. Behind him, Warriors in heavy armor roared their defiance as massive weapons howled to life. Not plasma. Not ballistics. Something older. A memory, not from his life, but passed through blood. A war form. Cross fell to one knee in the command center. His nose bled. Ray moved to help him, but he waved her off. I see it, he whispered. See what? He pointed at the screen, now showing not data, not code, but a human figure emerging from the base of the Aegis Helix. Glowing. Radiating force with each step. Dax, he said. He's not activating the weapon. Ray narrowed her eyes. He is the weapon. Near Mars, humanity's orbital fleets, once defensive, moved with terrifying precision. No orders were issued. No debate. Ships that hadn't flown in decades responded to the unspoken signal. They turned, not toward the pale engine, but away. They knew they couldn't stop it. But something else could. Dax. On the Jatil ship, everything collapsed inward. The emissary reeled. Your species wasn't supposed to survive itself. Dax stepped forward, light rippling off his skin like molten steel. His voice was no longer alone. He spoke in harmony with something vast. We didn't survive, he said. We buried ourselves, because the galaxy couldn't handle what we became. His eyes, now glowing like twin suns, pierced the emissary. And now you've dug us up. The pale engine moved closer to Earth's outer gravity well. Its shape became suggested, towering, impossible, a construct of anti-light and echo. Where it passed, orbiting moons cracked. One of Jupiter's smaller satellites shattered without a sound. Then it halted. Not because of Earth's defenses. Because of Dax. He appeared in its path, not through propulsion but through will. Not a man. Not a god. A memory made real. He spoke once. And his voice ruptured time itself. Stop. The pale engine hesitated. Across the system, its entropy halted. Ships stopped disintegrating. Signals returned. The Jatil emissary whispered across its ancient frequency. It's listening. Ray stood frozen in Arcadia Spire. What is he doing? Cross replied, almost reverent. Negotiating, like only a human can. Inside the core of the pale engine, Dax stood at the edge of nothing. A voice answered him. It was vast. Impersonal. Not malicious. Just final. You were marked for forgetting. Dax didn't argue. He let it see. He opened every buried memory. Every war. Every sacrifice. Every scream. Not as glory, but as warning. He gave it grief. Pain. Hope. All at once. The pale engine reeled. Then it did something impossible. It retreated. Across the solar system, screens cleared. Weapons powered down. The stars, for the first time in hours, looked normal. On Earth, a silence fell like snow. Dax collapsed on the ground outside the Aegis Helix. Steam rose from his back. Cross's voice came through the calm. You still breathing? Dax groaned. Define breathing. Ray's voice joined. You just made a god run. Dax smiled faintly. No. I reminded it why it should never stay. The pale engine vanished beyond the edge of Soul's reach, faster than light, faster than understanding. Not defeated. Not destroyed. Dismissed. By one man. The aftershock of that truth rippled through every satellite, every species listening, every archive once sealed by fear. Humanity was no longer myth. They were real. Awake. Watching. Dax lay at the foot of the Aegis Helix, body steaming, breath shallow. His skin flickered with faint golden pulses, echoing residual energy that didn't seem ready to leave him. Medical drones hovered nearby, unsure whether to touch him. Machines were built to treat humans. He wasn't just human anymore. A familiar voice crackled in his ear. Still intact? Ray asked. His lips cracked into a dry grin. Can't feel my legs, but the universe blinked first. I'll count it a win. Understatement of the century. She muttered. A shadow passed overhead. The helix was retracting, returning to its subterranean cradle. The sky looked normal again. That disturbed him more than he expected. Cross's voice joined. We've received messages. Dozens of species want immediate talks. They're calling Earth a cultural anomaly. Dax raised an eyebrow. Cultural? They're afraid to say apex predator. At Arcadia Spire, the war room looked nothing like it had hours before. No longer chaos. No longer tension. Respect. That's what filled the silence. Ray stood beside Cross at the main display. A stream of interstellar transmissions was coming in, symbolic gestures, gestures of acknowledgement, of caution. Some of them are pledging allegiance, she said, stunned. We never asked? We never had to, Cross replied. We didn't dominate them. We survived ourselves. And now they know what that means. She stared at the map of Earth. So what are we now? He gave a long breath. History's warning label. Elsewhere in deep orbit, aboard the Jatil observation vessel, the emissary stood before its collective, a swarm of thought forms, woven together across living crystal and whispering current. He remembered, the emissary said. The others remained silent. No genetic conditioning. No manipulation. Just proximity to truth. And he chose what we feared most. Restraint, one answered. No, the emissary said. Clarity. Back on Earth, Dax sat alone beneath a sky still tinged by aurora-like pulses. It would take days for the planetary energy to fully stabilize. He wasn't sure he would. Ray found him there, wrapped in a thermal shroud, knees drawn up, face unreadable. She sat beside him, wordless for a time. Finally. You should be dead. Probably am, he said. Feels weird. You remember all of it, don't you? He nodded. Every buried war. Every civilization we wiped from Starlines. What we became. What we gave up. And it didn't consume you? He looked at her. It is me. It always was. Just under layers. She turned to him. So what now? Dax watched the clouds roll. We stay awake. But we never stop remembering why we went to sleep. Cross addressed the council for the first time in decades. He didn't speak with threats or grandstanding. Just truth. Humanity was not reborn today. It was reminded. And that memory is a burden. He let the word settle. You don't run from it. You hold it, heavy as it is. Because the moment you forget, that's when we stop being human and start being what terrified the stars. There were no objections. No applause. Just silence. A rare kind, agreement. A month passed. The helix was buried again, deeper this time, surrounded by a living firewall keyed to Dax's biometrics. He was the key. Not a hero. A lock. Governments formed new doctrines. Not for offense, but for stewardship. They built archives open to the galaxy, transparent, raw, unapologetic. They stopped hiding. Dax eventually returned to a small house on the edge of what used to be Montana. Now it was forest again, terraformed to its prehistoric roots. He liked the quiet. The wind. The firelight at night. Visitors came. Scientists. Ambassadors. Curious minds. He spoke little. He had shown enough. But once a child, no older than 8, asked him, Are you a god? He knelt down. No, he said softly. I'm proof they bleed. Above Earth, satellites resumed orbit. Ships resumed travel. The stars moved again, as they always had. But for the first time in millennia, the universe knew. If ever pushed too far, humanity would not just fight. They would wake up.